I mean, like, if you have no understanding of economics, I guess we can say that a flat tax is a good idea. Allow me to introduce a very simple concept. It's called marginal utility, okay?
Just before the election, there was a debate at the University of South Carolina between Destiny and conservative Owen Shroyer. Let's take a listen to some of that.
So I think the question was, in 2016, I think Democrats said that it was a waste of money, it wasn't a good idea, and then now that Kamala's proposing a wall, why is it now a good idea? Was the gist of the... Yeah. The idea that immigration policy could be boiled down to having a wall or not is childish. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into making good immigration policy. But the reality is most people, especially conservatives, don't think that illegal immigration is a big problem in the United States right now. It's very, very, very easy to prove this, because if you look at what happened on the border, you saw that there was a bill in Congress to address those issues at the border. Everybody was on board with voting for this until Donald Trump came in and said, no, I need you to keep the border open because I need to run on this as an election issue. You can listen to McConnell talk about it. You can listen to Cruz talk about this. All of this is open testimony. It's not even testimony. You're able to say it to the media. Donald Trump said, I can't have you pass this border bill because it's going to make it so that I don't have something to run on. That doesn't sound like a very big problem to me. That sounds like politicking. Much the same, when Donald Trump was in office, Donald Trump didn't do any of the things that he said he would do at the border. He didn't get any legislation passed. He didn't make any substantive changes legislatively or through the legislature by working with them to actually effect any good border policy. He didn't get any money from Mexico. That was a complete and total lie. He failed on basically every single measurable outcome. He wasn't able to do anything. So again, if you think that the border is a problem, why would Trump be your guy to fix it? He did nothing except for what he could with executive action, and he's not able to lead the Congress in getting any comprehensive immigration stuff done. And the one time there was a good bill on the table that would have alleviated a lot of the issues with the asylum-seeking process, he shot it down. This guy over here is probably very keen to misinfo a lot of the stuff about the border bill, so I'll get ahead of a few of it because I know a lot of the dumb talking points, like the $200 billion in aid, the majority of which is used weapons, which last I checked can't help anybody with their health care in the United States. But for instance, when people talk about the border bill, they'll say stupid things like, well, that bill would have let 5,000 people a day in. No, what that bill would have done is if the caps hit a certain level or exceeded a certain level, the federal government would have been able to unilaterally shut the border down, which would have actually prevented more people from coming in if numbers got too high until the numbers had come back down. This bill would have allowed for more asylum judges to be paid for so that we could work through the backlog of people better. This bill would have allowed for more border security and for more people to prevent people from coming over illegally across the border. This bill would have helped a lot of the problems with the border, but Republicans were more keen to see a fight over politics rather than alleviating the problem. So I guess it was never really that big of a problem to begin with.
Thank you. And Owen, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Well, that's just a blatant misrepresentation of the congressional bill. It was never going to permanently shut down the border. It was going to set a cap per day, which would have maxed out still over 1 million border crossings per year. And they love to play this game with asylum. They're basically just rewriting the laws, and so anybody can seek asylum. Anybody can get on the app, the CBP One app, and claim to be an asylum seeker. This is not asylum. Asylum seekers go to their bordering country. That's an asylum seeker. These are people who are coming to the United States of America for free food, free health care, a hotel to stay at, and a free transportation trip wherever they want to go. That's why they're coming here, and they've basically rewritten the laws where everybody is rubber stamped as an asylum seeker. So you can sit here and say, oh, asylum seekers. Well, anybody and everybody from all across the planet can come here and now claim to be an asylum seeker, and you're just rewriting the phrase and the concept of illegal immigration. But you're just wrong. It's still over 1 million a year on this bill, but still you're completely misrepresenting it. The reason why the Republicans decided not to vote for this bill is because it did include all the pork barrel spending. This is how corrupt Congress is, and both sides do it. The Republicans and the Democrats do it. They've been doing it for years. They just tried to do it again on the continued resolution, but they couldn't even get the SAVE Act passed. So they'll have a bill with a major issue. Let's say it's border security. And then they'll pork barrel funding of all these different projects, all these different things that a governor over here might want, a representative over here might want, a senator over here might want. And they toss it all into this bill and they say, this is the border security bill. And then if you don't sign it, you're not for border security. And it's just a game. It's a game that our politicians have been playing against us, all of us, for years. So, yeah, I'm glad that the Republicans didn't do it in a rare moment, but yeah, are they still going to get the pork barrel they want? Yes. Are we still going to get all the illegal immigration that they want? Yes.
I just want to jump in here for a second. What we're hearing this guy do is this us versus them, right? Again, it's not important who the them is, right? Is it trans people? Is it illegal immigrants? Is it brown people? Is it Antifa? Is it communists? Is it socialists, right? There's us who is right and smart and deserve it and hardworking and earnest and Jesus loves us. And there's them, right? Them, they're the ones that are causing the problem. Not us, them. Them, they're the problem. In this case, he's saying, oh, well, it's the government. The government is corrupt and, they do it. Everyone does it. It's them, not us.
So we still lose on that issue. Now, again, to sit here and pretend like the border was less secure or not secure under Donald Trump is just not being honest. The numbers are proven that the border crossings were down under Donald Trump. And every year since the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration has been in power, you've had a record number of illegal crossings. 3 straight years. And by the way, where are the 325,000 missing children that they have let in? Why did Kamala Harris cancel the border wall construction that was already paid for but now pretends to do it? It's because she's a flip-flopper and she'll say whatever she needs to get fools like this to vote for her.
Now a question for Owen. This has been prepared earlier, and the question for you, Owen, is, while no taxes on tips nor on overtime from Donald Trump may help many Americans with the current high cost of living, many other Americans don't receive tips on the job and don't work at an hourly rate. Are there any blanket policies that would help Americans as a whole deal with the currently higher cost of living?
Absolutely. And in fact, Trump needs to go a lot farther with this. No taxes on tips might have been a lucky strike for Donald Trump, since this election will likely come down to Nevada, even more specifically Las Vegas, where most people work for tips. That's why Kamala Harris was so quickly to steal that policy, because they're well aware that Las Vegas could end up deciding this election the way the Electoral College might go. No, I think it's pretty clear. And again, this isn't a Republican thing. This isn't a Democrat thing. This isn't a conservative, liberal, left, right. This should be all Americans. Everybody should agree with what I'm about to say. By the time it's all said and done, we're taxed at about a 30% rate. By the time we buy things, sell things, spend things, earn money, whatever it is, you're taxed at about a 30% rate. That is astronomical, okay? What we need to do is a flat tax, and I would just say just a sales tax, and that's it. We should have no income tax, no federal income tax, no state income tax, no tax on tips. You should be able to make a transaction without the government getting involved 5 times, reaching into your pocket and shaking you down like the mafia that it is. So if we need tax for certain things in civilization, we can have a small sales tax, and that would be more than enough to still pay for the roads, the police officers, and everything else. It would
Which, by the way, they're not doing.
Be more than enough. Yeah, we might not be able to afford all the wars overseas. Yeah, we might not be able to give Ukraine $200 billion and Israel $10 billion every time they come to Washington, D.C. Yeah, we might not be able to afford that. Oh, well, I think the American people will be able to get over that, quite frankly.
I just love how this isolationist mindset ignores what a vital and leading role the United States plays globally around the world, right? Hey, let's just stop funding foreign wars. Let's stop being involved in Ukraine. Let's let Putin do whatever he wants. Sure, that's going to affect our allies, right? Sure, that's going to affect our European allies, but you know what? That's their problem, not ours. This will never come back around to affect us.
So no, I don't think it goes far enough. And this whole concept that I always hear these talking points from the left. Oh, the rich don't pay their fair share. Well, what is the fair share? What is the fair share from the
How about anything?
rich? They already pay the most in taxes by far.
They pay the most if you count a dollar for dollar, but if you look at it as a percentage, it's nothing compared to the wealth that they control.
The rich pay 90% of the taxes, but this is still solved with a flat sales tax, because who's going to be taxed more on a flat sales tax? The rich. Who's going to be buying a yacht? The rich. Who's going to be buying a skyscraper? The rich. Who's going to be buying a jet? The rich. So it really knocks out all the problems. It takes care of the left wanting the rich to pay more taxes because they buy more things, spend more money, and it gets the government out of the middleman and the middle class and the lower classes' lives, where we're not spending as much on taxes either. So It's a nice policy to get a talking point started. It's a nice policy that could end up determining the results of this election, but this is beyond party lines. We are taxed way too much. We need to cut taxes down to almost nothing. And by the way, for all these people that want more government services and all this thing, why don't they just volunteer to pay more taxes? I'm sure the IRS would take your check, but I noticed that all the people that want more taxes, they never volunteer to pay more taxes. They want somebody else to pay those taxes, not themselves. Somebody else has to pay those taxes. So I'm not going to do the class warfare crap. Every single American should be upset at how much we get taxed. We used to throw tea in the Boston Harbor for a 2% tax.
We used to tax the top tier at 90%.
Now we tax about 30% of the money that we make and spend. It's over the top. It's out of control. We need to cut this thing down. And Trump just going after tips, payroll, and all the other things he's mentioned. I think Social Security. Yeah, that's a nice start. Let's keep going. Let's keep cutting. And cut the government down about 98% too, and you won't need all these taxes.
Thank you, Owen.
Wow, applause.
We'll kick it over to Stephen for his 3-minute response.
So the unfortunate reality. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I mean, like, if you have no understanding of economics, I guess we can say that a flat tax is a good idea. Allow me to introduce a very simple concept. It's called marginal utility. Okay. What does marginal utility mean? It means that the next dollar that you have means a little bit less to you than the one that you had before. So what does that mean? Well, if you go to somebody that makes $40,000 a year and you say, hey, give me $5,000, that $5,000 from that person means a whole lot more than you go to a person that makes $500,000 a year and say, hey, give me $5,000. Because the marginal utility of the next dollar that you earn is less and less and less. Once you're making past 7 figures, you might not even miss $10 or $20 or $30,000 missing in your account, because who keeps track of it? Whereas when you're poor, or when you're working poor, or when you're lower middle class, or even middle class, you do notice when there's an extra few $100s that go to a tax, an expense, whether it's childcare, whether it's whatever else. These are costs that everybody has to deal with. In order for our society to function, in order to support the successful businesses and billionaires that we have in our society, some level of redistribution is probably required. Probably doesn't work when you have a society with some people that make billions of dollars, whether that's in the appreciation of assets or whether that's through W-2 wages or whatever, right? Millions of dollars through W-2s, right? And then you have a bunch of people that can barely afford to live in the cities that they are working for these people in.
Right. And if you have 3 people that control more than the bottom 40%, control more wealth than the bottom 40%, all of that bottom 40% of the society is still buying groceries and gas, right? They're spending, right? So it's tax on the things they buy. That's what the what Owen Shroyer is proposing. It's absurd. Whereas 3 people control that equal. They're not buying as many groceries as the bottom 40% of the American population. That's insane. It just doesn't. It's kindergarten math.
When I stream my stuff on Twitch, or if I stream my stuff on YouTube, I'm not just relying on my stream and the people watching me. I'm not even just relying on the engineers that keep all of that infrastructure working. I'm also relying on the people that keep the buildings clean. I'm relying on the people that work as baristas and servers that serve the people food, that might work in these downtown areas. I'm relying on the bus drivers. I'm relying on the emergency medical services. There's a whole chain of people that exist that make it so that I can do my job that I think it's okay to pay into. And anybody that's in America, a country that allows you to be the best version of yourself more than any other country in the world, I think that when you live in this country, I think that you also do owe a debt to it. And you owe a debt to the people that work in this country and keep it running. And the idea that somebody making over $1 million a year can't pay a little bit more in taxes to keep that country functioning is absurd to me. And then this idea of, if you think it's so important, then why don't you just pay more taxes? If there's a stone in the middle of the room and it takes 10 of us to lift it, and there's one guy saying like, hey, we should go lift the stone, you say like, oh, well, why don't you go lift it on your own? It doesn't make any sense, right? A few people saying, okay, well, fine, I'll pay more in federal income taxes doesn't really do anything for the country. This idea of the citation to the Boston Tea Party is hilarious, given that MAGA people are some of the least constitutionally respecting people in the history of the United States, whose president literally said he would terminate the Constitution because he wanted to go and find voter fraud. A guy who, given a softball question by Sean Hannity, asking him, hey, when you were talking about what you would do in office, that was a joke, right? And he's like, it was a joke, except on day one, I will be a dictator. Okay, this is the guy that you're going to talk about and then bring up the Boston Tea Party. Also, the Boston Tea Party didn't happen because of no taxation. It happened because of no taxation without representation. The second part is important. We can consent to being taxed. We can vote on politicians that do taxes. We can vote on politicians that do spending. If you want to do something about the level of taxation as well, you have to pair it with budget cuts. This idea that Donald Trump is, again, the guy that is going to help you because he's going to cut taxes, where are the budget cuts? What are you actually cutting from the budget? And keep in mind as well that on the federal spending, 25% of this is in our discretionary spending. So when you're crying so much about, oh, foreign aid to Ukraine, which again, you haven't addressed, but it's like 20 billion in cash, not 200, okay? The rest is usually in the form of old armaments, so we have to pay to upkeep anyway. Where was the spending cuts from Donald Trump? They didn't exist. So what, are we just going to continue to deficit spend 75%?
We have to move. Thank you very much, Steve.
You know, I'm going to stop it there. This goes on and on. It just gives me heartburn. It's so infuriating. Listen to the right talk about how easy it is, stupid. But we've already had 4 years of Trump, right? And we voted to go back into it again. I think largely because of a very, very effective propaganda machine on the right that wasn't just invented, but was really effectively weaponized to the degree that I think even Trump himself and a lot of people on the right were surprised by. They're like, holy mackerel, it worked. You know? Yeah, it worked. And we're gonna get even more of it as their disastrous policies begin to unfold, and they need to convince everyone that, oh no, you know, the house is on fire. No, this is working. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's the Democrats' fault. You know, blah blah blah. Let me know what you think in the comments.